Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Honestly, Let's Talk. I've been gone for a few weeks trying to just take some Thursdays off, but I am back tonight. My name is Todd Nesloni, and I am so thrilled for you to be joining tonight as I chose another topic that I thought was probably pretty timely right now with everything that we're going on. And as I said, I want to talk about finding balance and holding it all together. I kept thinking, who could I have on here? And, secretly, I always try to choose people that I love hanging out with just so I get that time to hang out with them. And right away, I was like, oh my goodness, I have not got to talk to Jessica Cabeen in forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely love her. And I am so thrilled, Jessica, that you agreed to come on today. So tell everybody kind of who you are.
Oh my gosh, I'm like bright red already. That was so nice, Todd. Gosh. I feel like I would like you to just be my next letter recommendation if I ever need a new job.
There we go.
That was awesome. But so I'm Jessica Cabeen. I'm currently a middle school principal in Austin, Minnesota. Prior to that, I served as the principal of the happiest place in southeastern Minnesota, known as the Woodson Kindergarten Center. So I really love working and serving in our community, and have two boys, a 16-year-old and an almost 15-year-old. Been married to my husband for 19 years, and have written 4 books, in our spare time. So Todd, you're kind of in, I think you're at like 4 or 5 as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
well, Jessica, I have loved so many things about your journey, whether it's the books that you've written or the work that you've done, and you're one of those people that I greatly respect, because who you portray yourself to be is actually the person you are in real life, which is always refreshing, because you and I both know that's not always the case. But, I thought about finding balance today and talking with you, because you actually co-wrote a book all about balance. So tell me a little bit about that book in particular and your co-authors.
Absolutely. So, it's been almost 3 years, I think. I had the immense privilege to write Balance Like a Pirate with Sarah Johnson and Jessica Johnson, both incredible leaders right over across the way in Wisconsin. So it was truly just, we were all at the time principals of different levels, and just also moms, and trying to figure out how to make it work, and really came up with some grounding perceptions around balance, and not really thinking of it as work life, but really talking about the different quadrants in your life. So personal, positional, professional, and then passions. And just throughout the course of like a week and the quarterly reviews, I'll just kind of make sure that I'm doing something in each of those quadrants to kind of really fulfill all the different aspects of our life. And so that really has driven the work that I do even day to day, and certainly through the last year of leading and learning through this pandemic too.
Well, balance is one of those things that I feel like all of us, especially in education or as parents, we really want to get better at balance, but I feel like it's one of those things that's always a work in progress. Mm-hmm. This may be a weird analogy, but to me, it's like when I hear people talk about sobriety, it's like you never reach full balance, but you're always working on bettering it. Mm-hmm. And so were you nervous, putting your name on a book that was all about balance? And that way people in your normal life or your own kids would be like, Mom, you're not very balanced today. And you wrote a book about it.
Oh yes. I have very accountable teenagers in my life that like to tell me when I'm not fully balanced. But I think though, it's important that we talk about this concept, because so often we just attribute who we are by what we do. And I think it's really important that there's a whole other component to us outside of our day jobs or our titles, and to take time to cultivate those passions in our life, our own well-being and self-care. And it was just a great opportunity to do a lot of research and work around it. And I'm really excited to continue to see, as we're moving through this pandemic and moving it into a new normal, that is a conversation that we're having, not just about our students' mental health, but our educators' mental health too, and just the resiliency that we've had to develop in this time, but yet also that tension of, at some point, we need to pause in this pace, because it's been a full year, and teachers are tired. I really do think that it's been a really challenging year.
So before we get into what things look like for you now, because I know now is very different than pre-pandemic. So I want to start with pre-pandemic.
Mhm.
Talk to me a little bit about what did balance look like for you back before everything crazy happened? Like
Yeah.
fitting in those four quadrants, like how did you consistently work at feeling like you were accomplished at staying balanced?
Oh, great questions, and good at my age to think back past March of 2020. Woo, this is real gray hair. Anyway, so I would say if I start with that personal quadrant, one of the things I've always really tried to do is maintain exercise in my life, and I'm not sure if it's the Enneagram 3 in me or just the driven, but I always need like a race or a challenge. So like I would sign up for half marathons or things to just kind of keep me accountable to my exercise routines. And I've done the Miracle Morning for years where I get up early, do my devotional, journal, read, exercise, and really start my day about me and not about work. So I think that was really helpful in the personal quadrant. Positional was really learning to set boundaries with technology. I don't have email on my phone. I still don't. I really try to
Wow.
limit how much I'm accessing technology at night and limiting how many times I try really hard not to send emails after 5 o'clock at night to staff. And I just check it once or twice to really put those boundaries around my day job. And then over in the professional quadrant, it was really just prior to COVID, like attending the national conferences, doing webinars and staying connected on Twitter and social media just to kind of grow my professional network. And then passions continue to be that writing, blogging, and doing research. It's just, I love to learn and grow and share with others. So that was really kind of my diet quadrant there
Well, you know,
pre-pandemic.
I love hearing about your passion quadrant, especially because I can think like you can tell it is your passion when you do talk about things in presentations or even in your books. And so I'd love to know, but going back to the exercise,
Mhm.
what does that look like for you? Like what kind of exercise person are you? Because I know for me, like I always tell people, I hate running. I'm not running unless there's only one taco left at the taco truck. But I will walk in the community. I don't mind going for an evening stroll. I am addicted to my Peloton bike now.
Yeah.
That has
Mhm.
been my,
Mhm.
I did not know I would love cycling, but I do it literally every day. So
Yep.
what does exercise look like for you?
Being in Minnesota, I'm kind of a fair weather runner. So I usually just start running in March and then I season it between October and November when the first snow hits, just for my own safety. I don't need to break a hip and try to show up to
Yeah.
work the next day. That's not gonna go well. And then, but then I'd like to like the Peloton. I've had mine for about 2.5 years, and I like the motivation and um, the gaming aspect, trying to like achieve a new personal record and getting into some of the yoga. And then, but last spring, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I did not want to put my running shoes on. I mean, I was really stressed and unmotivated. And so just even like a nature walk was really with my dog was like probably the best thing I could do. So I think it's important that you kind of change your diet up with exercise.
Yeah.
And if it's really not something you want to do, find something you do want to do so you do it,
Yeah,
really.
totally. Well, you know, Jessica, we talk about this balance and we've been talking about it in terms of pre-pandemic because I think, you know, when the pandemic hit, things shifted for a little bit and we all kind of had that mindset of it's okay, we can work through this for the next couple weeks or the next month. And now it's been over a year since our whole worlds have changed and we've come to the realization that a lot of what we used to do to take care of ourselves, to balance ourselves, for decompression, like all of that doesn't quite hit the same way as it used to, and we have to really reevaluate things that we are valuing and our way we're spending our time and how we are protecting our own mental health. And so for you, how has finding balance shifted
Mhm.
to what you're doing now, to how things are now for you?
Well, and I'm going to be really honest. March, April, and May was awful. I
Mhm.
mean, I was unmotivated, tired. I could remember days I'm like, I don't know when the last time I washed my hair was. Like because I lived in this office for 2 months. I came down at 7 in the morning and I didn't leave till like 6 at night just because we were just building a ship to try to teach 850 kids while we were teaching 850 kids. It wasn't easy by any means. And then I just really learned that it wasn't healthy and sustainable. And so moving into the fall, I put some really strict boundaries around things. And one thing I did this year that I've never done in 20 years of education is I've taken a lunch every day. Crazy. Well, and twofold, because we're a hybrid. So 3 days a week, the kids are at home, and 2 days a week, the kids are at school. Well, I'm at school every day and my teenagers are home. So, 3 days a week, I'll come home and get them lunch or just connect with them for 20 minutes. And then the other 2 days a week, I'd let our little pandemic puppy, the prodigal puppy that eats my shoes and everything else out. So I think like something like that, I just never was one that took a lunch, and things like that were really helpful. I try to have more walking meetings. So even today, our union rep and I, we do a 40-minute walking meeting instead of sitting in our offices, things like that. So just trying to break things up. I know one thing that I've experienced is it's really hard to hydrate with masks on all day. And so just being intentional about drinking water. I mean, these are really small things that pre-pandemic would have been no problem, but you have to be so much more intentional with these things with everything else going on.
You said something there that really struck me, and it was funny. I did not learn the lesson either until my 5th year being a principal, and that was the value in stopping and eating lunch. Mm-hmm. And, I used to, and ashamedly so, wear it as kind of like a badge of honor. Like, hey, I'm so busy, I couldn't even stop for lunch. Like, we say those kind of things in passing conversation. And I didn't realize the effect that was having on me. And, I think we all are aware on some level. It's like we know breakfast is important. We've been told that our entire lives, but some of us still skip breakfast. But it's the same with lunch. It's like, I have to take care of me so that I can be my best for y'all. And so that doesn't mean I need an hour in my schedule for lunch, but it does mean, and my secretary, my 5th year, she would say, go sit down for 10 minutes. If that's all you need, that's all you need. But at least sit down to eat your food and then go. Because it reminds me of that saying, we have time for what we make time for. And so we have to value that. And so I love hearing that that's something too that you've started doing as well. And so I'd love to know, through the pandemic and the balance and all that, how has that affected your personal balance and your and family and things like that?
Yeah, and I think one of the blessings is I definitely wasn't speaking and presenting as much as I was pre-pandemic, and it's really helped me recalibrate as Isaiah will no longer be a student in my school next year. He'll actually go to high school, and I won't follow him for once, so that's nice for him. But I think I've really learned to value just the quality time with my kids, because I'm going to only have Kenny for 2 more years and Isaiah for 4, and so really looking at putting some boundaries around some of my professional things that I had been doing to really make sure that I'm being a parent and a spouse first. So really recalibrating priorities. And I think the pandemic's also given us some nice pause. I mean, if you're a parent of tweens or teens or soon to be parent, I mean, your life can get thrust into activity after lesson, after sports, and you could be going 4 to 5 days a week. And it was really a blessing to just have family nights where it would be like 4 o'clock and we didn't have anything. And I'd like to continue to look for like night walks with my husband, or once in a while walks with my son, just to have family time, and really limiting the technology too when we do those things. So
I'd love that. Well, for those people who are listening today, you alluded to it earlier, and I know you and I have talked about this too. There's a lot of educators in all types of roles right now who are hurting, who are burnt out, who don't even know where to begin. So, and one thing I often hear is from educators right now is we hear people telling us to take time for ourselves, but there's so much on my plate, I don't know what to take off, because I feel like I'm going to get in trouble if I take something off, and then I don't want that because that adds all these other levels. So for someone who's listening today who's like, just tell me where to begin, what advice would you have for them?
Really look at, and I loved how you said too, like you make time for what you make time for. Like take a week and write down everything you do.
Mhm.
Like write down, this is what I did at 7 a.m. This is what I did at 8, 8:30. And really then look at it and reflect on, is this where I want, is my life leading me or am I leading my life?
Mm.
Because I can be honest, I want to read books and I want to do this and that. And then I get into This Is Us marathons and like 3 hours of my life is gone. So not that that's a bad thing. Sometimes we need those just completely just
Yeah.
zone out times, but if you're doing it every night, 3 hours of TV every night versus maybe an hour of Peloton or an hour of reading, really just kind of evaluating that, because I think you'll find you have time because you're probably spending too much time on other things. And one other thing too, I would suggest is as much as you can batch things.
Mm.
So grading, email, it's so much easier to like grade or email like in a half hour increment versus 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. So, but it's hard. You really have to put boundaries on, oh, I'll just do this. No, just wait and do it the next day. If you've communicated to your students, you get a 24-hour, 48-hour return, wait till the next day and do it. But creating some systems around automating things too really helps with that efficiency piece.
I love though too that you said, take a few days or take a week and keep track of what you're doing, because I find that it's very easy for us to say, I'm really, really busy. But it's a lot more difficult to really be specific with what you are busy doing. And
Mhm.
when you do take inventory and stop and reflect, you realize, wow, I spent an hour and a half doing that. That's
Mhm.
why I didn't get these other things done. Or every day, this is taking my time, and I didn't even realize it till I wrote it down. And so I
Mhm.
think that's such simple advice, but it really does make a huge impact. And so for people who are looking for some great resources, I know we've got your book, Balance Like a Pirate. Are there
Mhm.
are there some other resources that you found really successful in your own walk in really learning how to balance?
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of Michael Hyatt, and so I've been listening to his podcast, and it's a business world one, but he really talks about that ideal week and mapping it out. And I think you both know Danny Bauer. He does the Better Leader, Better Schools information. He has resources on creating your own ideal week, where it's just a template where you can write it all out. That's been really helpful for me. I always go back to Dr. Adam Sines' The Power of a Teacher. He was a keynote, I think, in Baltimore at NAESP years ago. And it's right up here. I have that as a resource that I grab onto. And I think, you'll lean into something that you really like. There's a ton of more Christian influenced on, being closer to God and finding that if that's an area that you want to grow and cultivate and kind of, I'm right now in Mark Patterson's Draw the Circle, a 40-day devotional. And that's
Ah,
been fantastic. Oh my gosh.
really?
Yeah, it's a really quick morning devotional. And it's been really fun to really just see being more intentional with my time in the mornings and my journaling. So that's been kind of a neat piece to that. But so I do kind of am unconventional with my balance, because I look at educational resources, Christian resources, and then business resources too, because I do think there's just a wide variety. The Harvard Business Review does a lot of great articles. Edutopia has been putting some things out too with links. So there's a lot of things out there. I think you just pick one and work through it.
Well, and I wouldn't say that you're unconventional in looking at that. I think that's smart. Like, you're making a really smart move, because none of us are any one thing. We're not
Mhm.
just an educator. We're not just a family member. We're not just a person of faith. We've got all of those little elements, and they each kind of interact with ourselves differently. And so I love that you shared, looking at all of those different types of resources. And don't just go to how do educators stay balanced. Like,
Yeah.
you have to look at all the areas of your life. So that's brilliant. And
Mhm.
so, Jessica, as we close out today, I'd love to know, if everybody is walking away from this with just one thing, what's the one thing you really want them to understand as they leave this conversation?
Um, I one mantra that I keep going back to, especially as a teacher or a leader in any capacity, is um, if you're not taking care of the kids, you need to take care of the people who take care of the kids, but you can't do any of that until you take care of yourself. And your own self-regulation, your own mental health, your own physical health impacts your ability. We all been there. We had a sleepless night and we're shorter in the classroom. We're just eating multiple Twix bars and then we have low energy in the afternoon, or that hangry thing, so I think it is so important to put yourself first, even post-pandemic, because our students are going to have effects of this trauma for years to come. And I think we need to continue that capacity of resiliency. So give yourself grace and really, really do something for yourself every day, even if it's 5 minutes, a 5-minute walk, an extra bottle of water, 5 minutes of reading a book. Just do something for yourself every single day.
I love that. It is not selfish to take care of you. And so, Jessica, there have been so many little nuggets of wisdom today. I have so enjoyed this conversation. For anybody listening or watching, go buy all of her books. They're all fantastic. Jessica Cabeen, just go to Amazon, type it in. They're there. Go to her website. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Jessica, I've so loved today's conversation, and I hope everybody listening or watching has got as many takeaways as I did. Remember, you can check out all the past episodes of Honestly Let's Talk on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your stuff, it's there. You can join every Thursday live at 8 p.m. Central for the next conversation.